try to get as relaxed as possible. I think that's the big key to shooting free throws, so that you feel completely relaxed. And of course, with my two-handed, underhanded free throw, it's a lot easier, I feel, to get in a relaxed situation. I like to bounce the ball 3 times, get in that relaxed position.
Wait a minute. Why 3 times, not 2, not 4?
Well, I just got in the habit of doing it 3 times, and I just do it the same way. I hold the ball in exactly the same position on the ball every time, and I think that repetition in this game is really the key to success.
Is it repetition or superstition?
I think it's repetition.
Okay,
it's the same way, time after time after time, so that it becomes something that just gets embedded in your mind. So I think the 3 bounces, arms hang down, my knees are bent, I'm relaxed, cock the wrists, follow through.
So there we are, opening with Rick Barry, one of the all-time greatest free throw shooters in NBA history. He shot just under 90% for his career from the line. I believe his best season he shot 94%, which is just absurd. And he did it with the underhanded granny shot. As far as I know, he was the only person in the league using it at the time. You don't see it nowadays, maybe here or there on a whim, but I don't. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I've not been watching all the NBA the last couple of years, but I don't think anybody uses it regularly, and I'm 99.9% sure that nobody uses it regularly to the tune of an 89% career free throw shooting. So, yeah, you can be successful unconventionally. You don't have to follow conventional ideals 100% of the time. I'm just going to clip together a few more examples of that and put it on the screen now.
World record. Cleans it. He's under it. And he stands with it. United States of America. For America record. There's 214.
Sorry, Danny. I know why Kenny picked him, because look, he's got that side spin, got that tornadoes in effect.
So yeah, there's there's Lou with his squat jerk, which is not the most efficient way to jerk a barbell. It's not something you want to teach new lifters how to do, but Lou made it work. Lou had a great snatch. His snatch was so great that his jerk didn't necessarily have to be the greatest to win for a long time. However, his jerk was still like not some pissant jerk either. He made the power jerk work. He was successful, in an unconventional manner. And in a funny sort of transition, you look at Rob Kearney, the American log press record holder in strongman. He does a split jerk, but with a log. Nobody's doing that to my knowledge right now, at least at that highest level, that upper echelon of strongman. I believe he's the only person doing the split jerk. Everybody else kind of does a push press. But he makes it work for him. Moving on to KK, deadlift god, legendary power lifter, but legendary deadlifter, known for his deadlift. This is my fucking belt, deadlifting beltless with the rounded upper back. Again, not something that you're going to want to try to teach new lifters. You always want beginners in whatever endeavor. 99.9% of the time, there may be some exception that I'm sure the internet would correct me if I said always. Teach them proper technique. But again, Peja Stojakovic, 3-point contest. He was a sharpshooter in his time, great 3-point shooter. shot with a side spin, which is absurd. You don't shoot with side spins, but he got good at it and made it work. Again, you're not going to teach somebody new that, but it's something that he probably did from a very young age, and nobody corrected him, and he just got extremely good at it to the point where by the time he was where he was, there's no use in going back and correcting it because there's no more learning curve once you're in the NBA. Once you're there, you kind of got to run what you brung. You can certainly make minor improvements, but you're not going to, with his level of success with a three-point shot, you're not going to break it down and rebuild it from scratch. So I wanted to, relate all of this to powerlifting, and, perfect technique is not required. It's something, again, beginners should be striving for. Technique should not be neglected, but there comes a certain point we are all built differently. I am not going to deadlift the same as somebody 5 inches taller than me with 10-inch longer wingspan than me. It's just not feasible. They're not going to squat the same way that I squat. Everybody is not going to squat perfectly upright with a high bar position, going near ass to grass, maintaining that vertical torso, as shown here.
Help them with this lift. This is all them.
And Sean owns the junior American records.
Drive.
And, there's Sean Noriega, has a very wide raw squat, almost reminiscent of old multiply squatters. Bends over a lot in his squat, knees cave in, but he makes it work. And I'm not going to tell him he's technically improficient. But it's not the traditional classic textbook squat, and it doesn't have to be. He's a good squatter. That was old footage. I think he's in the upper 600s now, and he's an 83 kilo lifter. But yeah, that's beside the point. Whatever class he's in, I'm almost sure it's 83. But anyway, again, you don't have to have super ultra technical proficiency. You have to lift more than the other person on the platform. That is all. That's all you have to do in powerlifting, is lift more weight than your competition under the rules of powerlifting. I'm not implying that one should cat back deadlifts, because that we can all agree is unsafe. But two lifters in the same weight class with the same subtotal going into deadlifts, lifter A cat backs a 300 kilo deadlift, lifter B does a technically proficient 295 kilo deadlift, lifter A wins. There's no style points for perfect form. And as you mature as a lifter, you're certainly going to find your strengths and weaknesses. Some strengths may overpower some of those weaknesses and lead to form deficiencies. I'm not saying this is a good thing. However, if one gets comfortable with a slightly altered form and has success with it, even if it's not that textbook form, even if they're losing 5 kilos on their squat, but they're still out squatting the competition by 5, 10, 15 kilos, it is okay. You only have to do enough to win. You don't have to be technically proficient in everything. You don't have to be a perfect lifter. You should probably strive to be as perfect as possible, but it's not a requirement. You need to be striving to win in a head-to-head competition. If you're, and now powerlifting now, raw powerlifting, is almost more of a self-contained thing with how many federations there are, local meets, etc. And that's fine if you're, competing against yourself. Then, just be improving your total over time to hopefully maybe one day be on the level to go compete, up there against others, should that day come. And again, as long as you're improving your total and being safe and not putting yourself in dangerous positions, then you're fine. Safe technique and perfect technique aren't necessarily the same. You can have imperfect technique and still not be at risk of injury, or any more risk of injury than you would with the perfect technique. Let me rephrase that. You are always at risk of injury, perfect technique or not. So you just need to get better. And if you get comfortable with a certain unorthodox technique, again, as you mature as a lifter, not as a noob, as you mature as a lifter, you get comfortable with a slightly unorthodox technique, and you're having success with it, and you are making progress, and you're racking up wins, and you're putting, 10, 20, 30 kilos, pounds on your lifts, 50 pounds, 100 pounds on your total every year. After 10 years, you're going to be a long way from where you started. And you don't have to have perfect technique. You only have to have safe technique that allows you to move the most weight you can move comfortably, and without having to mind fuck yourself. By the time you're at a competition, you shouldn't really have to be going over cues in your head. Oh, I need to cue root the floor to keep my knees out, or I need to cue elbows down on my squat, or I need to cue bend the bar. You shouldn't have to cue anything. It should be thoughtless at that point. And if your slightly unorthodox technique is thoughtless, but you have to think about picture perfect technique, you're going to mentally fuck yourself, again, striving for that picture perfect technique that doesn't really matter at that point. The only thing that matters at that point is weight on the bar being successfully completed, with 2 out of 3 white lights minimum in each lift, and being more than your opponent, or in modern times, more than likely just more than yourself at your previous meet. So I'm not the only one who thinks this way. A lot of competitors, especially experienced ones, will probably tell you something similar. Of course, if you post anything non-technically 100% perfect on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, there's going to be some person in the comment section who probably doesn't have any video postings or lifts of their own posted, that may or may not barely be able to squat 225 pounds, will quickly tell you that your technique sucks and you suck, even though you bench 300 pounds more than they squat. But yeah, that is that. So I'm going to end this with the same video I started with the legendary Red Auerbach, one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time, one of the greatest coaches in sports history, with these words.
What's the difference in style? Boy, I tell you, he compensates real good. But if I had to ever teach his way, I'd die a horrible death. Form-wise, a coach can get sick watching this kind of release. Is there a right way? I say no. I agree with Rick. Whether you shoot the way Jamal Wilkes shoots or the way Rick Barry shoots, or whether you shoot overhand or one hand. The answer is Do what is best for you. Do it the way that you can make it. That's the name of the game. Relax, follow through, but make it.